The NFL preseason has come to an end, and we have seen the final games for some players on the Buffalo Bills. Hello, everyone. My name is Brett McDurphy, and I am joined by my partner in crime, as always, Mr. Sean Kula of the Red, White, and Bills. And today on our Red, White, and Ruthless episode, we are going to talk about the final preseason game for the Buffalo Bills, what we liked, what we didn't like, as well as the 53-man roster. We will give some final roster predictions. And we will also go into a little bit of the opening week for the Buffalo Bills as they play at home again against the Cardinals. We will get into all of this and more today on Red, White, and Ruthless. But first, we have to hit our intro. What is up, Nickel City Mafia? Welcome back to another edition of the Red, White, and Ruthless. And I've already told you what we are going to talk about, but I want to thank everyone for making Nickel City Mafia your first listen of the night. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, drop a notification, and let us know your thoughts in the comments on what you saw today from the Buffalo Bills going up against the Carolina Panthers. Today, I'm joined by my partner in crime, as always, Sean Kula of the Red, White, and Bills. And Sean came out with a video earlier in the week about Greg Rousseau. And if you haven't already, you should go over to his channel, check it out, because he did an awesome job on that video. A lot of stats that you wouldn't imagine in there, but he went over every little penny of that and explained it very well as to where Greg Rousseau lines up in each of the statistical categories. And Sean, man, you put a lot of work into that, and I want to commend you for that.
Well, I had help from you and Mike as well, so I don't get all the credit. But yeah, before we get, now that you mentioned it, just real quick, for that video, it's not an indictment on what Greg Rousseau is going to be in the future, because I know there was some confusion in the comments about it. It's all about what he's been up until this point before the season starts, and where he lines up with his peers as, defensive end or edge rusher one on their team. And again, it's not a shot at him. It's just, you hear a lot of chatter about how he's a top 3 run stopper. He's elite. He's this, and that's why I did it. And again, had a good time doing it. It was a lot of work, but again, with you and Mike, it made it a lot easier for me to do it. And I really appreciate you guys for that. But I'm just excited that we can get into real football. And, I know a lot of people will be cut by Tuesday. But again, this is going to be crazy amount of players, an influx all at once, because every team's cutting, 30-something, 40 guys. So it's going to be very interesting. And I know we're going to get into all that. But what it makes me think of is everybody's always worried about, we might not be able to keep Buffalo Joe or Frank Gore Jr. or whoever, but it's a lot easier now to get lost in the shuffle when there's going to be like 700 people released at the same time. And
Right.
We have to remember also there's more players than the players we like. So we have a better chance of getting guys back. I know there's a chance they'll go, but you can't be worried about stuff like that. And if they're not going to start or be a part of your team in that way, and they get a chance to do that in another team, we have to be supportive of them for that, because that's an opportunity of them to make their career. So if they're not going to be a contributing piece in our team now, and they can go play another team and get significant reps, or playing in meaningful games, then I'll support them either way. But I got a good feeling this year we'll be able to keep everyone that we'd like to come back.
Yeah, there's some guys that, especially at the defensive line, I mean, they're so deep right now with Casey Toohill and Kingsley Jonathan. If they decide to keep 6 defensive ends in that rotation, but there's so many players that I can think of that could deserve a roster spot on other teams, but the Bills are a little bit deep at the defensive line position. But Sean, I want to do something before we even begin. And I know that most likely that we're not going to be able to reach out to a lot of the players and everything, but I always love to take this time right before the season starts to go over the 90 players that are on the Buffalo Bills and send a message to them just from Nickel City Mafia and Red, White, and Bills, as well as Go Bills podcast. And my message to them is you guys have put so much work into being on the 90-man roster. You've done a great job of creating battles with guys that are going to make the 53-man roster. You push everybody to get better each and every week. And the players that are not going to make the Buffalo Bills, your journey in the NFL may continue on with another team, or this may be the end of your career in the NFL, and that's the sad reality that we see. But you are a part of the 1% of the people that make it to the NFL. You started in Pee Wee football. You worked your way all the way up to high school, college, and now you're in the NFL. And that journey can continue. You just got to believe in yourself and believe in what the coaches are telling you. But for those that their journey does end today with the Buffalo Bills, or tomorrow with the Buffalo Bills, or before the Tuesday's deadline, we thank you for being a Buffalo Bill. And wherever you go, no matter where it is, we will be rooting for you unless you're playing the Buffalo Bills. And for those of you that don't make it any further and your career ends, and this is the last time that you're playing in the NFL, I just have to say to you guys, no matter where you are and everything and where you go, if you're working in a field like a tech worker or wherever it is, or you're one of those people that works at McDonald's and ends up being the person that gives me my food when I'm in line, just make sure you check the damn bag before you put the sauce in there and everything, because every time I go to McDonald's, they don't check the bags.
They never do.
So, all kidding aside, I just had to throw that joke in there because that's one that I've always thought about is the guys are going to be going from NFL all the way to the McDonald's. But no, in all reality, to lighten the mood and everything, we commend you for everything that you've done with the Buffalo Bills, and we wish you all the best no matter where you go in life. And we'll always be rooting for you no matter if it's in the NFL or wherever it is. And we can't wait to see you blossom somewhere else as long as it's not against the Buffalo Bills.
Absolutely.
So, Sean, let's get into this game, man, and let's talk about the Carolina Panthers and Buffalo Bills game. We did not see the starters for the Bills today, and no Josh Allen, no Keon Coleman, no flashy players that you would imagine, but we did see the number twos for the Bills going up against the number ones. And, Sean, I want to begin with you, man. You weren't able to watch the game, but there's a player that you want to talk about. I know for sure you do. In Frank Gore Jr. And what we saw from him today, an excellent performance with his dad in attendance at the game. I don't know if you were able to see that as well.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
He was in attendance to watch the game, and he tweeted out at the end of the game, "That's my boy. I'm so proud of him," and everything. And I want to talk about what Frank Gore Jr. did today, because he may have solidified himself a roster spot on the Buffalo Bills. So just give me a little bit of your assessment. I know you listened to the game and everything, but what do you feel you've seen from Frank Gore Jr. over the last few preseason games?
Well, again, just like you can put I say Van Driesen because I play football with Van Driesen, Andreessen, any undrafted free agent or walk-on type. They always work hard because they all work hard, all the pros, but especially them, because I understand this might be my only chance to really show people what I got. And, Frank Gore Jr., and I don't know if you guys remember, but when we were talking about running backs in the draft, I even mentioned, you could probably get him 7th round, 6th round, or I'd take a flyer on him because he's got, an all-around talent. And, I didn't know we were going to draft Ray Davis or anything. So I was like, if we're just going to get a running back, let's get one later on. And I thought of Frank Gore Jr. And then, I knew going into it, it'd be kind of not like a long shot for him to make it, but something would have to happen. And then you start thinking that I like Ty Johnson too, but and Ty Johnson's only 26, so he's really not that old. But Frank
Right.
Gore Jr. is like the same skill set. He can catch the ball, he can power run, he can pass block, do anything that Ty Johnson can do, just a little bit younger. And I was like, honestly, I would keep Frank Gore Jr. over him just because of the slight age difference. He's can last longer for you. And I do like Ty Johnson, but today, 100 yards, and he went against their ones, their twos, their threes, and produced at all levels, and was able to catch the ball too, run the ball well. And again, if he's not going to make the Buffalo Bills, he'll definitely be on a practice squad for us. Or again, if another team needs a running back, it'd be hard to keep him off of a team. And again, just being on a practice squad for an undrafted free agent is an absolute achievement. And if again, especially with us, someone might go down, or anyone might go down somewhere, he's going to get some playing time. And I really think he proved that, especially against the Panthers first team. Again, they're not the best in the world, but he did it, that he could be an NFL running back. And again, he's still got to get polished, just like Andreessen does. And if they both were on the practice squad, I wouldn't be angry, because I think, especially for those two, if they get a whole year to sit and learn and develop, next year, who knows what could happen. So again, very pleased with what Frank Gore Jr. did. Definitely proved he could be an NFL running back, and I still think he was my dark horse. He's going to make I said it earlier, that he's going to make the roster as like the one guy for me that's going to be a surprise make. But again, they didn't play Ty Johnson today, so I kind of solidified that he's going to make the team. But definitely, he'll be the first guy up if someone gets injured.
Yeah, and I think of the two, obviously, Andreessen versus Frank Gore Jr. I think Frank Gore Jr. has the easiest path to get to the to get to the practice squad of the Buffalo Bills. I think Andreessen's opportunities, especially starting again for the Bills today, I think he solidified himself a roster spot for the team. And yes, expectations may be up so much, because what we've seen from him over the last few weeks is more than what we ever expected right now. He went from being somebody that was a tryout player for the Buffalo Bills, coming in, working hard, getting into the starting lineup with all the injuries that we've had with Baylor Inspector, Eddie Olafashio, and even Matt Milano being injured. But to seize the opportunity and excel at it with a ton of tackles today as well, and what we've seen over the past 2 weeks, I think it gives him an opportunity to potentially win a 53-man roster spot on the team. So I wouldn't be surprised if that does happen. But real quick, get to a comment real fast from Weston. He did mention this, and I'm sorry, Sean, to interrupt, though, but I do want to get to the chat real fast. Weston, you're coming in saying Tyler Bass missed the kick. Yes, he did, 51-yard kick that he did miss, and we will get into that later on in the show. But some interesting comments from Sean McDermott about that. So, Sean, let's go back to Andreessen, and you had something that you wanted to mention.
I was going to say, I wouldn't be shocked if he made it, and I wouldn't be angry either. My whole point about him was just a guy like him and Frank Gore, I would prefer, because they have a lot of refinement to do. Yeah, they're good enough to be in the NFL, but again, they were passed down by 32 teams for a reason, 7 different times, and Andreessen was passed down even again because he wasn't even an undrafted free agent pickup. He was a walk-on afterwards for a tryout. They have great instincts and great abilities, but there's little things that need refinement for them to be great players. So I think, and I'm not 100% sure, you have to don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure that Matt Milano has to make the team and then get put on IR for him to be able to return to the team. So if we keep 6 linebackers, Matt Milano is one of them, he won't make the team. Again, I'm not 100% how the whole thing works with IR. I just know that Matt Milano is going to they unless they don't think he's going to come back, they would already put him on IR by now, but they haven't. So I'm assuming he has to make the roster. Again, could be wrong. So please let us know in the comments if I am wrong. But if that's the case, and there's 6 linebackers making the team, and Matt Milano being one of them, he won't make the initial roster, but they'll probably bring him back in the practice squad, then bring him up after Milano's on IR. So at the end of the day, I guess it doesn't really matter. He'll be on the team. But I just don't know the logistic of, does Matt have to actually make the roster initially, then be put on IR for it to be one of those 2 protected IR spots? Don't know for sure, but regardless, like even Jake said, right, okay, that's what I thought, John. Thank you. Yes, so if you put Matt on IR now, he's done for the year, so they're going to put him on the roster first. He'll make the team, so he'll be one of the 6 linebackers, or maybe they'll do 7, counting injuries in. I don't know what they'll do, but that will count as one of the linebacker spots, even though he won't play. So thank you for confirming that, John. But still, even if he, again, like Jake said the other day, if he even makes the practice squad, hell of an achievement for the guy. Dream come true, really. You know, you're from Buffalo, you love the Bills, and then you get to be on the team technically. And again, there's nothing wrong with it, is being, growing and learning on the practice squad, because I do believe in in-game reps to be better. But when you're a player like Andreessen and Gore Jr., you need more special one-on-one treatment, more refinement, more working on your craft and getting used to the NFL. So as good as they did in the preseason, I wouldn't be angry if they were on the practice squad, but who knows? They both might find their way on the roster.
Yeah, when I look at Andreessen, I mean, he reminds me so much of guys like Shane Conlon and just AJ Klein type style players. They keep their mouth shut. They perform. They do their job. They come into the Buffalo Bills. They go into work every single day, and they put on their hard hat and they just keep their mouth shut. That's the thing I absolutely love about him. I think it's very early on from what we've seen. Yes, he's gone up against number 2s, number 3s, and he was able to go up against number 1s over the past couple of weeks too. But the biggest thing is, can he keep up this production each and every week? And that's one thing that we need to find out. Other thing that I want to find out about him more is, and I think that Sean McDermott really did test him today in this category, was putting him up against the passing game, which we didn't see last week. He was in passing coverage today, and that's one area he needs to work on a lot. He was out of position quite a bit on certain plays. Communication issues with Deion Jones as well, stuff that needs to be cleaned up more and more. And that's why he is somebody that went undrafted. And like I said, he does a really good job in the run game. I'm not bashing the kid. I think he's going to be a great prospect for the Buffalo Bills. I just want to see these things get better from him so that he can achieve even more for the Bills. Maybe he becomes the starter, and that would be a crazy dream to see happen. I would be so thrilled to see that, but just different areas that he needs to clean up. That, and just the communication is the biggest thing for me, especially if you're playing the middle linebacker position. You got to make sure that the other 10 guys that are on the field understand the communication that you're providing to the team. And I think that that's one thing that he struggled with today, but he did a better job last week of doing.
Right, absolutely. And again, I couldn't watch, but I was listening. I heard, especially with the first iteration of linemen, heard it was pretty good. Of course, highlighted by Cedric Van Pran, and then Grable did pretty well, I heard as well, from what I was hearing. So I know you saw it. Did you see what I was hearing, or was there people that struggled a little bit? I know they had Anderson at guard, which is where he should be. But I heard, overall was pretty great. So the whole
from what I saw, the first team for the Bills in terms of the offensive line, I thought that they did a very good job of working the trenches, and with guys like Derek Brown being in the game and other starters for the Carolina Panthers, we held our own against them, especially with the number 2s going against the number 1s. I was impressed so much from what I saw. The number 2 team, this is what I'm going to say right now. we have issues with interior depth again. Nobody's going to believe me when I say that.
I
And
believe you.
it's crazy, but man, we have some issues with the interior. And I wouldn't be surprised if Brandon Bean decides to go after another guard. I think the team has a very good surplus of offensive tackles right now. And I don't know about Lyle Collins sliding inside the guard. I'm not.
That's all he can do now in his career, Brett. He's old and not again. He technique wise, he's not washed up, but he's just a couple years off of injury, and that's just who he is now. But again, there was the guy. He's a good veteran to have. Like, so we're going to keep 10 linemen. It's really should be the norm for all teams to keep 10 linemen, because how hard is it to get linemen? How much do people complain? Oh, our starter's out. We have nobody to come in. It's so hard to find someone. Even if they're not good, they're okay. You're gonna like last year we had 10, and we always had that one tackle. I forgot his name from Seattle. He was always inactive, but you had the 9 on the active the 9 suiting up for the game.
Right.
But yeah, you know what I've been saying since the beginning of the year.
Right.
It's not that McGovern is going to be a bad center. It's just I don't think he's going to be a better center than he is a guard. And I know for a fact that David Edwards is not a good starting guard anymore in this league. And he had a great role as being the big tight end or the heavy package guy last year where he excelled in. And as a starter, though, he's not going to be as bad as Roger Saffold, but I'm kind of worried. He is a liability. So, what I've seen in preseason, and that wasn't even against like top tier guys that we're going to play, especially with our own division. But again, is it going to bring Dawkins down a little bit? Because even though Dawkins is an all pro type tackle, when you got a kind of guy that's bummy next to you, you got to, you're not only worried about yourself now, but now you're worried, oh, I can't trust him as much as I could trust Connor. So now I got to, to keep my focus on both things. And that's what happened with Saffold. It didn't work out well. And then again, if McGovern was horrible at guard, I'd be okay with, oh, yeah, let's move in the center and see what's up. But he wasn't horrible at guard at all. He had his best season as a pro last year. I mean, he played left guard for Dallas too, but this was his best year. So that's why, to me, I was like, it just doesn't make sense to do this. But I had a hot take prediction was that by week 6, Van Pran will be starting center, McGovern will be back at left guard because Edwards is going to be so bad. Because then if Edwards is your starting left guard, that you already know your depth is horrible. So I'm not confident in that. But hey, Anderson is the jack of all trade type person like Ryan Bates, where everyone's so confident that he can play every position. The only thing I say is versatility is good until you have to use it.
Right.
And again, I hate using baseball analogies because I know Mike hates them, but it's like the utility guy. He might come in, go 1 for 3, maybe, make a couple plays on defense, but he's never going to start for you at a position, only unless there's an injury. And then even when they're in, you're like, I don't know. And the reason why they're so versatile is because they're not great at one thing. And they have to be versatile to have value, even though you won't want to put them in as a backup, really. Because that's what was Bates' problem. They're like, oh, yeah, he's a backup center, but we don't want to put him in at backup guard because if he goes down, then, what are we going to do? So, yeah, I'm a little bit nervous still. But again, got to let them play out a few weeks. You're not going to be able to judge them much off of week 1 versus Arizona. From what I can remember, they have an edge rusher. He's a linebacker. His last name starts with a G. He's like their only good pass rusher. And they just lost one of their young defensive linemen today. So I'm not gonna, whether they're great or not, we'll have to wait a couple weeks to see how they really are together. But I'll be watching them very closely. I'm rooting for David Edwards. I do like him, but I just think his time as a starter is over with, and hopefully it doesn't. He's not part of the future either, and that's what makes me even more angry about the whole putting McGovern at center and Edwards at guard. He's not the future, so you should have at least drafted a left guard, maybe. But hey, I can rant about that forever. So, how'd you feel about about some wide receivers? Do you think they made some noise? How about some tight ends too? You watch
Yeah,
them?
I'll go after a couple of wide receivers. Number one, I felt like Tyrell Shavers. He missed the opportunity for a touchdown, but the ball was a little bit underthrown uh, from Ben DiNucci on that play. And that's one play that I think that definitely DiNucci would want back. Deion Kane, man, he was wearing that number 14, reminded me so much of Sammy Watkins back in the day. And I was loving what I saw from him. A couple of good receptions. He finished the day 3 receptions for 28 yards. But the 3 receptions, he was fighting for every yard after the catch, and I liked what I saw from him. Demir Bird, he had 1 catch, but showing off the speed that he has, and that's one area that I think is somebody that could make the team based off of just the experience that he has there. But Xavier Johnson, too, another guy that could be stashed on the practice squad. He did a great job as well. A couple of good receptions on the slant routes and crossing routes that he ran. Liked what I saw there. A guy that I think is going to have a difficult opportunity to obviously make the 53, but somebody that we could stash away on the practice squad. And these are mostly guys that I'm looking at, that I'm telling you about, are guys that are probably going to be on the practice squad, is Trey McKitty. He had a 1 catch for 20 yards there, but I liked what I saw from him. He did some really good blocking, and I think he's going to be a good fit for that practice squad. Zach Davidson as well. Between the two, I would rather have Davidson make the practice squad, to be honest with you. But I liked what I saw from both tight ends there. And I'll finish it out with another wide receiver, KJ Hamler, stepping up big when Frank Gore Jr. went down. We were without a running back because we had Darrington Evans go down earlier in the game with a hamstring injury. Then we had Frank Gore Jr. go down as well with a right knee injury, and the Bills were able to get a touchdown on a handoff from Anthony Brown to KJ Hamler, and he had 3 rushes for 21 yards. Looked pretty good there as a gadget type player, and he could be somebody that makes the roster just because of the special teams fit as well.
Yeah, that'll be interesting, and that's why, special teams, how they feel about specials, and it's so, when you're thinking about your roster projection, you really have to consider that, because you got to have 11 people play or 10 people play special teams, right?
Right.
So guys like Kingsley, that's why I feel like they're going to keep 6 defensive ends, because if again, McDermott did say the only one definitively out for week 1 is Milano.
Right.
But if Morris isn't good, if he is going to be on IR for an extended period of time, that's a special teams guy that's not going to be there. So then if you cut Kingsley Jonathan, that's another special teams guy that's not going to be there.
Right.
So you got to have these special teams guys somewhere. Again, mainly they come from linebackers, and Reggie Gilliam's going to play, so that's one. So that's what you got. That's why I consider, some of these fringe guys heavily. Like, again, I see where people would pick 5 defensive ends, but just because Kingsley Jonathan has to play special teams, I think you'll keep 6. I don't think Deshaun Williams is worth having over a 6th defensive end that can play special teams. And if back in the day when we kept Jake Kumaro over, like I say, Hodgins, I didn't agree with that. But in this case, I just don't think Williams isn't going to be a game-changing type, even like a second rotation type guy. And not that Kingsley's going to be that either, but you've seen him on specials the last couple of years. He could make plays. So younger, more full of life, more physical, agile. So I guess I'm kind of rambling into the projections, but I got 6 defensive ends making it, and 4 defensive tackles. Again, just because Kingsley will be a special teamer.
Yeah, this is one I don't think Kingsley Jonathan makes the roster, to be honest with you. I love what he's done. He's just been so quiet this preseason, so that's why I don't think they're going to keep him. But the Bills, in terms of special teams, man, I'm going to say this right now. There's so many different players that are going to play on special teams this year than last year. You look at the Balen Spector, number one, injured again. So player that you have to add into the mix there. Eddie Olafascio, I think that's going to be the guy that's going to play special teams for us right now. Or Joe Andreessen, I think, could as well.
Yeah, they're going to have to if they make the team because, again, you're not going to have defensive tackles play special teams.
Right.
You're not going to have your quarterbacks. You're not going to have maybe a running back. Your fullback's going to play. Your third tight end's going to play. So you really have to have these big physical linebackers. Hey, Jess, how you doing? To be able to play specials. And again, our special teams unit is absolutely horrible. So, and like Mike said, you can just kick the ball into the end zone, give them the ball at the 30. I might actually prefer that because we lost Saran Neal, who's a really good special teamer. So we don't really have Matakevich was another ace. We don't really have a true ace at this point. So it's a little bit concerning. I mean, the specials has been horrible for a long time. We've been saying that for like 2 years now. Like, how is this coordinator still have a job? But yeah, I mean, Kingsley, he's not the best, but again, I just think because he's a proven special team body, I think they'll go with 6. They might even trade one, so we don't know. But I think there's no reason to keep 5 DTs just because I don't think Williams is that much of a flashy standout rotational piece where it'd be worth keeping.
Yeah,
but again, could also see that it could happen that way as well. But I think without knowing what's going on with Morris 100%, I would just lean towards having 6 defensive ends.
That's a very good point, Sean. I mean, I like what you're saying there. But speaking of special teams, let's get into somebody that we were going to talk about earlier in Tyler Bass. You weren't able to see the game. He was more or less hit or miss today in terms of what I would say. Sure. Number one, going 1 of 2 on field goals. The 31 was the long that he made. He also missed from 51 yards, which is something that Sean McDermott has said he needs to make. That's one of those kicks that he needs to make. And he did miss that one. I'm just seeing if there's any breaking news. I had something that came into my phone, but it was not breaking news. So I was going to break something on the channel if it was a player that was cut, but nothing yet has been determined. But, I mean, like I said, for me, this is just one of those games where I think he wants to forget. I think he has a little bit of what I call the yips in terms of you get too high, get too low, and when you get low, you start missing. And, yes, there could have been a high snap on that play, which I think it kind of was. But that's something that, as an athlete, and you've been in the NFL for more than 2 years, you need to understand that you have to make those kicks. And that's one thing that I want to see him make, especially on a day where there wasn't a lot of wind. There wasn't anything that really was a factor that could have determined him making that kick. It just seemed like he pulled it to the side too much.
Sure. Yeah. But yeah, before I get into that, I agree with what Jess said with Smoot and Groove. They could play inside. And again, I'm completely fine with the 4 DTs we got. I think they're both, especially Ed. These guys can play a little bit more than what they're allowed to play as far as a snap count. So I mean, look around the NFL. Your best. Yeah. Like the Christian Wilkins, the Quinnen Williams, the Max Crosbys, these guys don't play almost 100% of the time, and they still produce. So like, I don't understand there. It's not like we have 7 All Pros on defensive line that you would want to rotate. We just put your best guys out there, and if they need a break, let them get out. If they don't need a break, let them play. But as far as Tyler Bass goes, it's been no secret he's been inconsistent and not that great at times. But that whole, football in general is a technical game, but especially with the long snapper, the holder, the kicker, it's really about confidence, consistency, and really just believing in yourself. And,
Right.
I'm not going to, it's not even really the fan base, sending them death threats or saying he sucked, whatever. It's not even really about that. It's because, they can block out outside noise. And it's really, he saw himself in these games miss at a consistent rate. And now he's lost the belief in himself that he had once had before, where he was killing every kick and making it. So the only way to really beat that is to go out in the field when it matters and make kicks. And the more kicks you make, the more he'll believe in himself and get
Right.
back to that kind of thing. And sure, it's going to make, like, I'm not going to be like, oh, he's going to make, I used to say, it's going to go in no matter what. I wouldn't even watch kicks. And then last year I was like, man, we got to kick a field goal. Are you serious?
Yeah.
But I love Tyler Bass. And, he's not, I can't not show him criticism. Every player gets treated the same. When you make mistakes, you're not above criticism. But I truly believe that the more he kicks in the regular season, especially the ones that are farther and the ones that may be in high leverage situations, and he makes them, he might miss a couple, but as soon as he starts knocking them down and he starts building that confidence, he'll be fine. And again, the holding, like, you could blame Sam Martin, but the first year Sam Martin was holding, Bass was really good. And you see that, like, when Max Crosby, the old Packers kicker, kept missing in the end of his career, they kept trying to blame Bojorquez, but it's like, no, dude, you're just old and you're not it anymore. But Bass isn't old, but it's just easy to blame. Even with, like, look at guys like Josh Allen. When he doesn't do stuff well, we blame the offensive line. Well, not me, but people blame the offensive line. But when you watch the preseason games, when Mitch would make a mistake, then they blame Mitch Trubisky. Oh, he held the ball too long. Oh, he didn't go through his progressions good. But if that was Josh Allen, they would have blamed the O-line immediately and not even thought about, oh, it's just because how we love our players, which is fine. But Tyler Bass will be fine. He'll make some kicks. He'll get back into it. And, if he misses them, we'll be upset. And if he makes them, we'll be supporting him. So you can do it, Tyler. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. You just got to believe in yourself that you can sink these kicks, and you will.
Yeah, you're very right, Sean.
He got the leg for it. He's that's never been his issue. So it doesn't matter if it's 51. You can make that easily. It's just don't. And, people say, oh, he can only make it from this hash. You got to fix that then. Only kick from the hash that you can't kick from then. At practice. Get better at it. Get better at that. Get the confidence. And then, you'll be good.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Sean. I mean, I love exactly what you're saying there. I do want to get to the quarterbacks, though. I want to talk about both Ben DiNucci and Anthony Brown. The play of them, I thought that both guys looked very good, especially being two players that are coming to the Bills with less than 2 weeks of ability to understand this play call sheet. And I felt like both of them did a really good job of just covering the plays. And we saw DiNucci on a play where Darrington Evans got into the backfield, and he caught a pass out of the backfield, swung out wide, and it was an excellent touchdown. Unfortunately, Evans was injured later in the game, but Anthony Brown looked very good, 11 for 12 in the game. And for somebody that's coming to the Buffalo Bills with little experience understanding this playbook, both guys look pretty good. And Sean, I want to go over with you. I want to ask, which guy do you think is going to make the Bills practice squad of the two?
Probably, I don't know. I don't know much about Brown. I do know that DiNucci has started a game or two in the NFL when he was there first, so I would assume he'd be the number two. But I didn't get to watch. I got to listen. But if Brown is more mobile, he seems like a big guy. If he's a mobile guy, maybe he's a good number two, because Josh is a mobile guy as well. So if he had to go in, you don't have to change your offense up and just, because if DiNucci's in, you probably got to be like, oh, well, now we got to go to, like, nickel diming and, have you run and do this and that to protect him, because he's not a mobile guy. He's not a pocket. He's a pocket guy. But if Brown is a mobile guy who can also throw the ball, you can still run what you want to run with Josh. Obviously, not to the caliber, but yeah, it's again. There's only probably Minshew's technically a backup, but he won a starting job over a young guy. So unless you got like Minshew or Heineke or Tyrod Taylor, your backup quarterback isn't going to be great. They're all going to be, a major drop off to your team if you've got a top 5, top 10 quarterback. But at the end of the day, as bad as these guys are, they can still throw a football. Like you saw Zach Wilson produce 1,000-yard receiver with Garrett Wilson.
Right.
As bad as you are, you can still throw a football to a great receiver. So it's not just about the quarterbacks in the backup quarterbacks being bad, but these Tyrell Shavers isn't Garrett Wilson. So Mitch Trubisky's throwing to him. Obviously, it's not going to be the same outcome. But we remember last year how bad Kyle Allen was in the preseason. Because I don't remember who people exactly names, but all over the place. Man, Kyle Allen's so bad. Can we cut him? I wish we had Mitch back. And now because Mitch had a rough game, they're like, oh, we got to get rid of him. We got to bring Kyle Allen back. No, he's horrible. And the only thing I prefer having Mitch is because he has a winning record as a starter. He led his team to the playoffs. He went through the playoffs, and they probably should have won, but their kicker missed a field goal. And he's mobile. Yeah, he's not the best. He's not the greatest decision maker. He doesn't have the best skills, but he's the guy I'm looking for as a backup quarterback. Experience in the NFL, winning games, playoff. Went to the playoffs, and again, someone who's mobile. But he'll be out for a couple weeks. And again, DiNucci, he's got a little bit of an arm, and I don't. Justin, I think the practice squad quarterback is needing to play. Yeah, exactly, and that's really what it comes down to. People like, oh well, if Josh misses only 3 games, you want the guy to go in and win one or two maybe.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if you're playing like the Ravens, the Cowboys, and the Dolphins, you're not going to beat them with a backup quarterback anyway. So unless you get lucky. So especially with the schedule we have now, no backup on our team. Not many backups in the NFL are beating the schedule we got. So,
right.
With you. Again, I knock on a lot of wood. Josh has been able to play through injury and still produce at a high level. So we've been very fortunate and very lucky to have a guy like him. And I'm with Jess. I don't think the practice squad quarterback, whoever it is, or the backup quarterback is going to step up and win us big games. Because we got a lot of those coming up. But exactly. We got bigger issues if the practice squad guy's got to come up or if Ben DiNucci or Mitch is going into the football game, unless we're blowing them out.
So speaking of bigger issues, I want to get into with the quarterbacks that we have. We may have an issue with our backup quarterback, Mr. Trubisky, with the knee injury that he does have. We don't really know if he's going to make the 53-man roster just because of his injury. He may go on the IR with a designation to return. And this is where the tricky part of it gets into. The Bills could very well just keep Trubisky on the roster because they think that he could just be the inactive quarterback, and they could have the quarterback be active and elevated up for the first couple of games. This is where, like I said, things get interesting. I mean, you could have Ben DiNucci or you could have Anthony Brown there, and that's what I'm kind of getting at is to start the season, one of these guys on the practice squad could very well get called up, and if something does happen to Josh Allen, then we could very well have to see one of these guys in the on the team and starting.
Yeah, if I tore my MCL. I think he just sprained his. I tore mine when I was a senior in high school, and it hurts, and it sucks, but it was to the point where at first they were like, oh yeah, you're fine, you didn't tear anything. But then when I got a second evaluation, like, oh yeah, you definitely tore your MCL. So it's like I was still walking on it and doing things with it torn. So yeah, and I had a bone bruise as well. So yeah, it bothers you, but I think 4 to 6 weeks is a real, 6 weeks on the high end is a realistic for a sprain. It's really just take care of it, rehab it, and he'll be back. So if they just they bring him on the team, they put him on the the inactive and the other guy, whoever they keep, is on the backup quarterback for the roster, then I can see that happening. But it's not going to keep him out for the year or anything.
No,
It's not like an ACL.
no.
It sucks. When it first happened, I was like, oh, I can't even move my leg. But yeah, I was in like it was like a big leg brace like this for like a week or two, and then I was out of it, and then was able to start rehabbing, and it was fine. So I think he'll be okay. That's what they said. I thought an MCL sprain. It could be. I don't know if it was what the truth is coming out, but I think we'll be fine with that position. But yeah, is there any other things from the game you want to talk about, or do you want to talk about some projections, or before we
Yeah,
wrap up?
let's go into projections for the 53-man roster, and let's go around the horn. Okay, let's do this. We'll go with a roster. Who you think is going to make it? I'll start with the quarterbacks that I think are going to make it. I think it's obviously going to be Josh Allen and Mitch Trubisky making it as the two quarterbacks. So I'll let you go ahead and talk about the running backs that you think are going to make it.
Sure. Well, yeah, Reggie, of course. Oh, I don't know where they want to label him as, but Reggie Gilliam, Cook, Davis, and again, that's really, to me, it's a toss up just because I feel like Ty Johnson and Gore Jr. are the same skill set, and I would just pick Gore Jr. because he's younger and higher potential. This is what Ty Johnson is. Again, I like him. I was happy we picked him up, but he's never going to be more than what he is. Gore Jr. has a little bit higher of a ceiling. So I would, and he was the guy I kind of put as like a dark horse to make it. So I'll just throw him in there. He might not make it, but if he does, he does. So I'll put Frank Gore in there, but it'll probably be Ty Johnson.
So I'm going to take the wide receivers and tight ends just because I'm going to give you the big one because you're going to get the offensive line.
Sure.
That's where I think you have the most credibility on that. So wide receivers, I think there's going to be 6 that make the roster. I'm going to start with Curtis Samuel, Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, then Mac Hollins. NBS, I think, makes the roster. And then the last guy that I think is the toss-up between Tyrell Shavers and KJ Hamler. I think that Tyrell Shavers is going to make it over KJ Hamler, which is a little bit surprising. Tight end, I think it's going to come down to, obviously, it's going to be Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox. I think the real surprise is going to be whether or not Quentin Morris is going to be able to get back, or is he going to be the guy that goes on to the short-term IR as well. And I think that Morris will get it over Davidson because I think we can stash Davidson on the practice squad. But if Morris does go to the IR, I think that last spot goes to Davidson. And then we'll have Morris return in a couple of weeks after the injury. So let's move on to the offensive line, Sean, and you give me your predictions there.
Yeah, we got the starters: Dawkins, Edwards, McGovern, Torrance, and Brown. Yeah, I think you should keep 10. That's my thing, always to keep 10. Then you got Grable as your third tackle and Vandermark as your fourth tackle. And then again, Cedric Van Prank Granger, of course. And then you would have Collins or Clapp. I'll get into which one. But Anderson will probably, he's not that great, but he'll make it just because he can play multiple spots. And then really it's between Collins and Clapp because that would make 10, right? At the starting 5. Then you got Anderson, 4. Yeah, so really it's between Collins and Clapp. And whatever one you don't, I think it'd be Clapp. But again, it's just the only thing holding Collins back is just he's a little bit, you can tell he's a little bit slower than everyone else out there. I think technically he's better, like as far as fundamentals and everything go, he's better than Will Clapp. But if you're dragging ass and you're slow, might hold us back a little bit. But really, I think it's between those two. Clapp had a concussion or something, I heard, so he
Mm.
didn't get to play. But I mean, really, either of them didn't really. I don't think they did bad or good. I think they were just Clapp and Collins, because they didn't do anything where you're like, wow, that was absolutely horrible, and they didn't do anything where you were inspired. And again, that's just they're just a backup. But again, Clapp can also play center. So you got, if you kept Anderson, McGovern, Van Pran, you got basically four guys that can play center. Yeah, Jessica said Anderson will be playing as a tight end in heavy formation. Yeah, that would be another good option. The only thing though, I like that, but I'm just wondering, because they never used to want to play Bates, because they're worried about, if they really think he's the backup center, which I don't agree. I think Van Pran is he solidified a second team center. But if they see Anderson as a second team center, which again I don't, they might not want to put him as the heavy package big tight end. So that'll be interesting. But if Van Pran is labeled as a second team center, which he should be, then perfect idea. And I think if he doesn't, I would be interested to see maybe even Grable out there. I know he's your first off the bench probably, but if they view, or even if they view Anderson as a second team center, Van Pran is a beast in the run game, and he's good at pass blocking, of course. But if they really see Anderson as a second team center, and they're not going to put him in a heavy package, put Van Pran out there, give him some reps. So a lot of opportunity for that. But yeah, I think 10's the way to go. Oh yeah. So if they announced that maybe they see, I knew they were probably doing something like that. They were like they did with Torrance. They were playing around, and they were misinformation saying he was having a horrible camp and he wasn't going to start, and Bates was going to get the job. So I figured that it was Van Pran was going to get the second team, because there's no way he's not better than Anderson. You saw it on the field. So yeah, cool. I like that. I'd be subscribed to that any day. But yeah, 10 is just good. And then again, you can keep Collins on the practice squad. And then if no one's going to pick him up, and I don't think anybody would pick up Will Clapp either. So really, it'll just come down to the nitty gritty with those two. I don't know, have you seen, like, they just haven't been enough? They've just been average. And I think it might just come down to who's younger.
See, here's what I say, okay? And this is going to be something that maybe I get a little bit of hate in the chat for saying it. When an offensive lineman doesn't have his name called in a game and you don't hear about him, that tells you one of two things. Either he's doing a really good job or he's not doing anything at all. And I think that they're doing their job. I just think that they're staying so quiet that you're just not hearing anything about them. And the announcers aren't saying anything about guys like Lyle Collins and even Alec Anderson. To some degree, they are saying stuff about. But just the backups, you're not really hearing anything about them. And that's a good thing. I think that Grable did an awesome job today.
Yeah.
And I agree with what you're saying there.
I think for the purpose of not just being wishy-washy with it, I'm just going to say Collins will be the 10th guy, just because if Will Clapp's claim to fame is he can play center as well, we already got 3 guys that can play center that are going to be on the roster. So again, Collins probably can't play tackle anymore. But again, you need guard depth, especially because again, Edwards isn't it. And then besides Torrance, you got Anderson, and if he's going to be center and guard, heavy package guy, they're not going to want to throw him out there. So they might just keep a guy like Collins, who at one point was really good. Clapp was never really good. But again, serviceable guys. I'll just go with Collins just for the fun of actually picking and not just throwing it up in the air. But again, that really it's really as 50-50 as it can be any position battle. And then did you want to do D-line? Because you took 2, did you want me to take the D-line too? Or
I'm going to get Spence, and I'm going to take defensive tackles.
But yeah, Rousseau, Epinesa, yeah, and like Jessica said, Collins is still kind of coming back slowly from. He had a lot of injuries, so I think he'll be fine. Great veteran to have. Again, Rousseau, Epinesa, Smoot, Vaughn, Solomon, and Kingsley Jonathan. You may even see them. I put a very hot take just because, hey, you're on Twitter, anyone can say anything. So I said AJ Epinesa will be traded, unfortunately, in the next couple of days, but I don't want them to. But I just figured, we do have a lot of defensive ends, and Dean always says they like to trade from positions of strength. So I don't think anybody would want Casey Tuhill or Kingsley Jonathan. You're not going to trade Solomon. You're not going to trade Von Miller.
Hold on. I can say something there. The Bills do have an opportunity to trade Von Miller. I know his salary is extremely high and everything, but they do have an opportunity. If they do decide to trade him, the Bills would create $8.8 million in salary cap if they decide to trade him. And
if they traded a Von Miller, that would, because they say they're in a transition, they're not giving up. But again, AJ is a great player, but if they traded a Von Miller, that would be them saying, all right, we're throwing in the towel kind of move, I feel like. So it would have to be a guy like AJ who's starting to ascend and has the potential, but the expectation for Von is to go be a playmaker and a game changer. So they might not trade anybody, but those are the 6 that they would keep. Again, Casey Tuhill. There's a guy out there at number 97. I don't even know who he is, but he's not going to make the team. I forgot his name, but he won't make the roster. Yeah, he won't make the roster. But yeah, that's a pretty solid room. We got a young potential, and again, guys like Rousseau have to really take that big leap. And hey, and again, I love the kid. I'm just gonna throw this out there for a conversation, and again, put into consideration. I use what's the guy's name from the Dolphins, Xavier Howard. He had that 10 interception year, right? And there's people that knock on the door for 2 to 3 first round picks for Xavier Howard. The Dolphins wanted to keep him, so they kept him, and he declined and declined and declined and declined every single year after that. So I brought this up beginning of this year. If a guy like Greg Rousseau, who we do have for this year and next year for the 5th year option, if he balls out and there you go. Was that you or Mike?
Oh, that was me. That was me. I put it on there.
But if Greg Rousseau comes out and goes something crazy like 20-something sacks, right? If someone knocks on the door and says, "Hey, we'll give you 2 first-round picks," I don't know. Wouldn't you do that? That you don't have to answer that. There's just a fun conversation for the chat. And again, I love him. I know I made a video about what he's been up to this point.
Right.
I love. He's one of my favorite young talents on this team who could be an elite player. But for the position we're in right now and where we're headed in the future, would you rather pay him like $30 million a year, or maybe you could get like 2 first-round picks for him? But that's just a fun conversation you guys can talk about in the comments and after the show. But yeah, hit the defensive tackles up.
Yeah, defensive tackles for me. It comes down to obviously Daquan Jones, Ed Oliver. I think Dwayne Carter makes it just because he is the 3rd round pick for the Bills. Austin Johnson has been a little bit quiet, as has Deshaun Williams. But I think Johnson has done a little bit more in training camp and will make the roster as the 4th defensive tackle. I have the Bills keeping 5, with Williams being that 5th guy. I know that Sean has 6 defensive ends, but I think that the Bills keep 5 defensive tackles, and Deshaun Williams would be that 5th guy.
So and then like the rest of the spots, like safety and corner, like that's the one that's hard to pick the amount. Again, I didn't actually write these down to equal 53. But I guess the locks for corner are going to be Benford, Elam, Douglas, and TJ. Those are the locks. And then again, that's all I'll say for now, because there's good battles. Hardy will make it probably. And then if they count Cam Lewis as a corner, that'll be 6, and then that'll be it. Couch will be a practice squad guy. And then for safety, and then you can round out the linebacker if you want. And then safety, You got Rapp, Edwards, Bishop, Hamlin, and that's probably.
I don't think they're going to keep another one. I think what they're going to do is they're going to have seven.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have seven defensive backs and then 4 safeties. And the reason why I'm saying that is because Campbell Lewis can be interchanged as a quarterback and a safety. So does that mean that a guy like Eddie Jackson is going to make the roster? I don't think he does because of that. So,
all right. So finish it up with the LBs.
Yeah, I think a guy that you're missing that deserves an opportunity to make the roster, Jamarcus Ingram.
Oh yeah,
had a very good spring and in preseason. So I think that he's going to get a roster spot. Didn't see him at all in the game actually, which was surprising. Jessica Tennis coming in saying the only reason I agree with 6 defensive ends and 4 defensive tackles, both Kingsley, Jonathan, and Solomon can play special teams. Williams can't play as special teams. I agree with that. I think the only thing is Williams was brought to the Bills as more of that bulk guy in the defensive tackle room. We're kind of a little bit smaller in terms of the defensive tackles that we have. And we need that run-stuffing defensive tackle on the team, and that's what Deshaun Williams would bring to the team. But I'll go after the linebackers real quick. I think the linebackers that do make it for the Bills, Terrell Bernard, Nicholas Morrow, we haven't seen anything of him, which is kind of concerning, but I think he does make the roster just because he does have the experience level. Eddie Olafashio, I think, makes it as well. Dorian Williams and Joe Andreessen gets the last spot for me. So 5 linebackers for the Bills making the team. I know it's a little bit thin, but I think that the Bills will look to add a 6th linebacker from somewhere outside of the team.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think they got to have, a lot of the special team come from linebackers. So we usually keep like 7, I want to say. So it'll be interesting how they go about it. Because, again, there's so many people that are going to get cut. And that's why I try to tell, I'm not down on our guys that could be fringe guys, but the rest of the NFL might not view our team like we do. So there's going to be, again, like 700 people cut, and there's probably linebackers out there better than Andreessen, and there's probably running backs out there better than Gore. So we can probably get them both back, and it'll be cool. But yeah, it's fun and interesting. It's always hard to it's fun to predict, but it's hard to always be accurate because you don't know what these coaches are thinking. Like, oh, we can go find. We've been looking at this guy. We wanted him in the draft. He's going to get cut. We're going to take him up. Like the Miami Dolphins, they got like 5 running backs that could be an NFL starter, and one of them's probably going to get cut. So people are probably looking at, one of those guys. So it's interesting, but yeah, it's pretty cool, Brett. And next time we do a show, it'll be, I guess it wouldn't really be a pregame.
Not yet. No, we got another 2 weeks. So
we'll probably talk about the roster where it landed, and then after that we'll be in the first pregame of the year, and then oh boy, it's exciting because this will be my final thought. This year is going to be very exciting and frustrating because there's a lot to prove, and I always enjoy that kind of thing where you don't know, like last year we kind of figured, we're going to be really good and we might make the playoffs and go on a run and we'll see. But now it's like we have all that potential still, but then if we screw around, we can find ourselves on the bubble of maybe even missing the playoffs, and all these young talent players that could step up. And then you really Josh has a chance to prove that he, from rookie year to now, he really matured himself. And yeah, sure, he does need, there's nothing wrong with having a number 1 target, but he can be the one to make these guys better without question. Because we don't question it because we see him and we know him. But the outside world, they still hate on him, even though he's the 2nd best quarterback in the league. So again, great show, and I'll throw it over to you. I appreciate you, and again for helping me with that video. And to the viewers, you guys are the best, and take it away.
Yeah, Sean, I was going to have you do the send-off, actually. I haven't had you do a send-off in a while.
Well, I jumped in front of us. Now you still got to do it.
All right, fine. I'll do it. Okay.
I don't want – you have to get your final thoughts in, so.
Well, I'll do final thoughts. I mean, for
All
me,
right.
it's just, I already mentioned it, as I was joking earlier, this is a tough time of the year where it's hard to see players go, some guys that are going to be fan favorites and everything, leave the Bills. But we wish you guys all the best. That's what I have to say in the end.
Awesome. All right, guys, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're going to do the rewatch, comment. We have a multiple group of people that will answer. If it's not one of us, Jake and Mike will respond. We love the engagement. We appreciate all you guys. Subscribe to the channel, subscribe to Go Bills Podcast, Ray White and Bills. And I believe they'll be going live tomorrow at 10. And we'll see you next time. Go Bills, and thank you guys.
Go Bills.